Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review, and next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series, the Infinity Saga line, anniversary line, whatever you may call it. This is that premium line that comes out every year. It first started with the Marvel Studios the first 10 years, then the next year it went into Marvel's 80th anniversary, then it went into the X-Men 20th anniversary, and then now it is the Infinity Saga. So each year around July, August, September, we get this line. So this year it is the Infinity Saga. So all MCU figures, some people may hate that, some people may love that, because then they can pass on it, or you could be like me and love MCU figures. I love MCU figures, so I am happy when I can get all different ones, and we get a lot of new characters. We get a lot of reuse and new, same or similar figures and that sort of thing. It happens every single time, so it's not anything new. But we do get some really exciting ones, like the Mark III. I never would have thought Hasbro would revisit the first Iron Man movie, and we got a couple of sets coming. The Iron Man Mark III, as well as an Obadiah Stane and Ironmonger 2-pack, which is incredible. But looking at this, the box is beautiful. I mean, just look at it. The Infinity Saga there in the front, the logo just looks amazing. I love the Avengers A logo. It's a little purple and blue, similar to how an Endgame one would look, slightly different. We get the Iron Man movie logo there at the top corner, and at the top of the box we also get that Iron Man, and then it says Iron Man Mark III, so that looks really nice. Looking at the side artwork, each side is actually different, and it has some nice blue, purple, pinks kind of in there, and a little bit of greens. Looks really cool. So we could see a lot of Endgame characters here on this side. Looking at the other side, we get the rest of the Endgame characters, but I think some of them, like Cap, Thor, are on there. So we get more of the Avengers, and then here we get like the Guardians of the Galaxy and some of the other characters, like Captain Marvel. So that is just really cool. So I love the packaging. Here on the back of the box, we get the movie poster that said for Iron Man. The bio reads, "Tony Stark takes on the world's worst villains in the Mark III suit, a technological wonder equipped with a variety of stunning enhancements and upgrades." So really cool. So I know people are going to ask. I ordered mine for Big Bang Toys in Las Vegas. I will put a link in the video description below. Last I saw, they still had it in stock. It was $29.99 plus shipping. It only took a couple of days. They do priority shipping. They pack it really nice, so not to worry. My buddy Toy Maestro, he also received his shipment. I believe he's taking orders now, so link in the video description to his Instagram. If you want to send him a message to place an order with him, then he will ship out to you. He also takes great care when packaging figures as well. So enough of that. Let's get this thing out of the package. Okay, so I have the Iron Man Mark III out of the package, and I also have the first Mark III figure that Hasbro released way back in 2008, right? I think is when the first Iron Man movie had come out. So they had, this wasn't really technically Marvel Legends. It was semi-equivalent, but it was a movie figure line. So they actually released an Iron Man Mark III, which I thought was decent enough. Obviously, it's not a great figure, but the sculpt itself was there. The scale, really, really bad. Paint apps, pretty good. So, it's decent for what it was. Let's put it that way. But you could see how far Hasbro has come in doing that. That was also, 13 years ago or whatever it is. So you fully expect Hasbro to be leaps and bounds over what they used to do. So it is natural. But looking at the progression, and I should probably, I guess, put them this way, to do from then to now. But so one interesting thing is, the scale and size. This guy is huge compared to other figures, so I'm also going to do a comparison with some other figures, some of the early Avengers figures, just to kind of give you an idea. And then even with some of the other movie Iron Man figures, as you could see, not a huge difference, but you could tell that this one is much bulkier and still is much taller. But we will go through all of that, and I will show you guys the accessories and things like that. So let's zoom in at the accessories, how those things work, and then we'll take a closer look at the figure, do the articulation, and do some more comparisons. Okay, so let's start out in kind of a weird spot. I want to show you this arm. So the right arm, you can see, kind of has this exposed section in that peg hole right there. So that's going to go along with kind of some of the accessories that he comes with. First of all, he comes with a cover piece, so you can actually port this right on in, and it fills in that hole like so, and it completes the armor just like on the left side. So That is just the cover piece. I'm gonna pop that off, and we get a couple of other pieces. So we have this really cool like rocket launcher, this little missile thing, and that's just gonna port right on in there, and he's gonna do that. So then you can kind of do like in the first one where he is in I had the name Gomira, right? And he shoots and fires the missile at the tank, and you know, does the badass walk away after he shoots it, and then it explodes. So that is really cool there. And to kind of show you guys the little detail. So little gold, little rockets, black tipped, and then that same red plastic to match the armor. It is a rubber material, so nice and soft. It's not going to break or anything like that, but it's small, so you want to be careful and not lose that. The next piece is this other piece, and I don't know what it actually is or does, but at the end of the movie, when he is fighting Ironmonger, he throws it up, right, and it acts as a shield when Ironmonger's like shooting at him. He has the exposed head, which, you know, we only get the faceplate lifted up, but he uses this and acts as a shield so he doesn't get shot in the face since his head was exposed. So that's a pretty cool little accessory there. Just a little bit of black, a little bit of red. You might not be able to see it on video, but there's some red paint right on in the middle there. Which looks pretty good as well. And this is kind of a rubbery material as well, so it's not something that's probably going to break. There's a little give to it, but it's small, so you don't want to lose it. We get a full helmet as well, so you can see here, because on the package he has the faceplate lifted up. And then we also have hands that are like the arc reactor blast hands. They are not hinged, so you could see they're already pre-posed out. So if you pull the hand off and pop these ones in, you have that back of the hand plate is already lifted out, so it doesn't hinder, and you can do the arc reactor thing. We get a nice white paint right in the middle there. There's no peg hole, so you can't plug in any kind of effects or anything like that, but that is sculpted really nice, and the paint apps are done quite nicely as well. And we get one for the right and the left. So now, close-ups of Iron Man. Okay, so there is an up-close look at the Iron Man figure, and damn, this is an awesome figure that just looks really, really good. I never would have thought, and I didn't care to get a new Iron Man Mark III, because it's the first movie, you know, we've moved on, but I guess, you know, if they're going to continue to make Iron Man movie figures, they're going to have to start going back to some of these older ones. With no Iron Man in the MCU, I'm sure they're going to circle back through some of these older figures. We need Iron Man figures. They're going to sell like crazy. Think of all the kids that want an Iron Man figure, that, you know, what they see in the movies and everything. So we'll continue to see it, and I for one will love every single one that they come out with. But the Mark III looks really good. If they just paint this all silver, we got an easy Mark II, so that would be cool as well. But damn, it looks really good. Even the Robert Downey Jr. head sculpt in there looks really nice. Good details, and so much better than what we got with like Age of Ultron. Even at the time, this was probably good, because I mean, you could see the resemblance in there. You could see that some effort was put into it, but just how they were back then is not what they are now. Because holy moly, look at the difference in that. Crazy, but looks really good. I especially like the arc reactor, because what they did is they did a little bit of white overspray on the armor to actually look like it's glowing. Like I was looking at pictures, I'm like, wow, that just, it actually gives the effect that it's glowing. So I think that just came out looking really nice. We get a little black right here in the collar piece. These two dots are black as well, but a nice metallic red. You can see some marbleization throughout the torso, but it's not bad. Nice gold color on the arms and on the legs. Looks really nice. One interesting thing is we do get pins on the upper part of the leg, but not on the lower portion. And I think maybe that's because they just went with part of the design. Unless that's not a pin at all, but I think that is a pin. So it's kind of interesting. No pins on the elbows, but just pin on the upper part of the knee. And then down into the boots, we get a little bit of paint right there. And I think that's where like the gantry would unscrew and screw some portions of the armor. That's what those are. Looking at the back, we actually get some gold here. We also get the same gunmetal black up there for where the gantry would screw and unscrew. And just looks really nice. One thing I was really surprised about is this thing does not share any parts from the Iron Man Mark 7, which came out in the Marvel Studios, the first 10 years line, which this was like the best movie Iron Man figure that they had made because it was just done so damn nicely. But it's kind of being overshadowed by the Mark 3. That's not to say the Mark 7's bad in any way. It's still really damn good, but it's crazy that not one single piece is shared. Even like the feet is the same like molded style, and they could have probably gotten away with using the same feet, but they're different. So this thing is 100% brand new sculpt. Nothing on it has been reused from any previous figures at all, as I really thought would have been the case. I mean, you would think something from the Iron Man Mark 7, but no, it is all brand new, which is crazy. So now let's pop the full helmeted head on. So those that may be wondering, it is a dumbbell joint, so there is no hinge on that head, so getting him to look up for flight poses might be a little bit of a challenge, as you can see there. You know, I'll go over that, of course, during the articulation, but here is Iron Man Mark 3 now fully helmeted and pretty damn good. Yeah, I really like that. And I'm sure some would wonder, so the Tony Stark head sculpt that came on the, I think this was the 80th anniversary, not the Marvel Studios first 10 years, but the 2-pack that had Tony Stark and the Iron Man Mark 1 that was exclusive to Walmart, I believe. That head fits nicely on here. It looks kind of weird from the side, but from the front, it looks like it could possibly work. When you compare like the open helmeted version, that head is similar in size. So, you know, this, the armor, the Iron Man suit would have been very bulky at the time, right? He streamlined it, made everything a little bit more tight. So, you know, being an earlier suit, it would have been a lot bulkier on him, so it would kind of work. So his head looking a little small on the suit, I think makes sense. I mean, it does look a little weird, but when you think about it logically, I guess it would make sense. Which, you know, visually it looks bad, so who cares about logic? But I mean, the head sculpt pops on there just fine. So then when you're doing, if you want to recreate that scene when the Ironmonger figure actually releases, which it did seem to release overseas today. So if you want to recreate that final battle, you could do, you know, something like that, where, you know, he's shielding his face from Ironmonger, and that could actually end up looking really, really nice. Okay, so let's go over Iron Man's articulation. So he can look all the way down, so that is not a problem. But again, the issue is kind of looking up. I mean, you see a little bit of gap in there, but that's the best that you could do if you want to try and get him into some flight poses. You get all kinds of insane pivot going on in there with the dumbbell joint. Full rotation, of course. The arms, and I forgot to mention this on the when you zoom in. So these old figures had these shoulder pads that would just pop off, and then you could easily lose them. So I was kind of scared because this almost looked the exact same at first glance, but the way they did it, they attach it onto the torso there. So even though that shoulder ball is really tiny, you know, it's kind of hidden in there. So that's not going to hinder the articulation at all. It'll move up with the arm, which is great. So you can get the arm to go out straight like so. You can get a full rotation in there, and you can see the shoulder pad actually moves with the arm, so that is great. You have an upper bicep swivel in there, double jointed elbow, which gives you that much bend there, so a little bit more than 90 degrees. We have a diaphragm joint on here, and what I love about this diaphragm joint is look how seamless it looks. It doesn't go from the super large size to the super small size and then a larger size there. A lot of companies will make a smaller torso to make it kind of function. Iron Man Mark 7 is a great example of that. See how much smaller that torso piece is compared to the upper chest portion and then the hip portion. The Iron Man Mark 3 does not do that, and it also really does not hinder the articulation. If you guys watch my Mafex Far From Home upgrade suit Spider-Man figure review, That was one of my biggest complaints. I had talked about that and how the proportions seemed off. It's because the upper torso, the hip, and the lower torso were different sizes, so it looked funny. This guy looks so nice together, and it doesn't really hinder articulation. I mean, look how much he pivots to his left. Look how much he pivots to his right. But going back, you get more, but coming forward really isn't a whole lot. But it's a dude in a metal ass suit, one of his early designs. He's not going to get a whole lot of mobility anyway. And then you get some turn at that diaphragm, as you can see there. So it just works out really nice. There's no waist swivel or anything like that on these metal suits. Not a whole lot of the Iron Man figures do. Some of the comic ones do, but that's really about it. The legs can go out that far apart, which is good. He can't kick forward that high, which is fantastic. His leg goes back quite a bit as well. One thing, these hips, you can see the leg is actually a little bit lower down into the figure because we have a drop down, which is insane. Like, we don't get that with Legends figures. That's like G.I. Joe territory right there. So look at that, and that's how you're able to get that kick so high. If you leave it up there, it only kicks straight out. But that's crazy to see with Legends. Like, that's insane. That blows my mind. It's really cool. There's also that upper thigh swivel in there as well. We get that double jointed knee. It's kind of an ugly bend, but it's extremely functional, and when straight, it looks really nice. But most of the legs, when you bend the knee, it looks kind of bad. The foot hinges down like so. One really cool thing is here at the ankles, these armor pieces kind of bow out because it's a little bit of a softer plastic, so you can actually get some hinge going down on that foot. Going up, not really a whole lot. The ankle pivot is there, and there is some give on these side armor pieces, so it works out quite well. We have a peg hole at the bottom of the feet, but ankle pivot, not as much as other figures, but it does have one in there, as you can see kind of how that works out. But man, the articulation just kind of blows me away on this guy, how they can make it look so good, especially that torso piece, because I hate it when, it just looks so off when it's so much, it's large, small, and then large again. When it's all kind of flush in straight lines, just looks so much better. You guys let me know down in the comments below what you think of that. Okay, so I forgot to mention the wrist. The wrists swivel, and there is a hinge on there, but fair warning, you're not going to be able to get a whole lot of use out of the wrist hinge. I mean, it's there, but again, very limited. You're not going to go back because of that plate on the back of the hands. But again, it is there. The Arc Reactor Blast versions, there is no hinge on that ankle, so that is a static pose for that hand. So just a heads up on that. Limited, but technically is there. Okay, so I don't have the new Ironmonger yet, but I have the one from 2008, and it's not a fair size comparison because we know that the new Ironmonger that's going to be coming out is going to be quite larger. So this really doesn't work, but hey, it's there. Now, if you look at like the Mark III compared to this Ironmonger, I guess that works out a little bit better, but yikes, right? Yikes. So a couple of things in terms of scale. So scale is one of the things that Legends never really gets right. So looking at some of the figures, the Power and Glory Captain America, you can see is way undersized when it comes to Iron Man. I want to say they should be about the same height wise. I mean, Iron Man could be a little bit bulkier because, again, a dude in a metal suit. So it just looks kind of funny when you position some of these figures kind of side by side. Now, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier John Walker Captain America figure, I think looks pretty good next to this Iron Man, but Power and Glory just looks way undersized when you really compare the two. So it's a little unfortunate. Okay, so some more size comparisons. Tony Stark next to the Mark III, Phil Coulson figure next to the Mark III. So you could say that either the Mark III is too big or the suited bodies were just too small. I think the suited bodies were just too small for the Legends scale, Legends line, even though nothing ever really scales properly together. I guess it could kind of work if you can imagine, a person in a metal suit. That could kind of work, but it is just to show you, how big this Mark III is. And for shits and giggles, here we have next to the original Avengers figures, and it's a travesty that this version of Captain America actually got 3 damn releases, and one of them was in an Endgame wave. Pretty ridiculous. This figure needs to really go away. I would love to get an update to this guy with some modern articulation, some modern style of a Legends figure, it would be great. I'd like to see, well, maybe not a new Black Widow. We've gotten a bunch of Black Widow figures lately. I'd love to get a new Hawkeye figure, a proper Hawkeye figure, and then maybe a new original Thor. That one's not terrible, but it's kind of funky. And then Nick Fury back there, and for the life of me, I can't get that damn figure to stand because it's a piece of shit based on those old-ass ankles and that old body and everything. So the Mark III is a breath of fresh air when it comes to some of these older figures. Okay, so now kind of going through history on some of our more modern and some of the best Iron Man movie figures that we've gotten. We have the Mark 85 from Endgame, which this one will soon be obsolete once the 2-pack with Thanos comes out in the Infinity Saga line. That one looks incredible. It has the unhelmeted Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark head sculpts. There's like 2 of them, a battle damage one, and then one where he looks clean. And then the Mark III, which looks really good. And then the Mark 7 from the first Avengers movie. And then this Mark III actually looks to be the tallest, the biggest, which would make sense because the Mark 85 uses the nanotech, which would cover his body and would be a lot more sleek compared to an actual suit of armor. So it makes sense that this guy would be a little bit smaller. I think size comparison wise, you know, bulkiness and everything is about the same. It's just the height that changes, and it's not even that big of a deal. So this I can kind of understand, and it kind of works. But out of these 3, you guys let me know which is the best movie Iron Man figure to date. I didn't think this Mark III would surpass the Mark 7. I really truly didn't. But damn it, this is hands down the best movie Iron Man figure that we have gotten. The drop down hips, the torso being kind of all in line and looking really good, the articulation for this guy, the added accessories really bring up the fun factor. The faceplate up, Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark head sculpt looks really good. I wish would have gotten actual Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark head sculpt. However, because again the one from the Mark 1 2-pack, because this one works and fits, we can get away with it. So not bad. I'm just in love with this figure. It just looks so damn good. And then to kind of throw in another figure into the mix of the evolution of Iron Man figures, I'll bring out that Age of Ultron one again so you could see kind of how some of these figures have really changed over time with Hasbro. Because, you know, at the time that one was pretty good, but man, just look at where Hasbro has come since then, and it's just insane how different and how much better they have really become. Okay, so there is my review of the Infinity Saga Iron Man Mark III. Such a fantastic figure. I highly recommend it. If you love movie figures, the MCU movie figures, this is an absolute must-have. If you're an Iron Man fan, whether you like MCU figures or just stick with comics, I promise you, you will really like this figure. Maybe you won't love it because you want to stick to comic stuff, and that's fine. But this is an absolutely fantastic figure. Hasbro absolutely killed it, knocked it out of the park with this guy. The best movie Iron Man figure released to date. It's just a fantastic figure all around. Again, links in the video description below to put in an order. Big Bang Toys in Las Vegas, if they still have it, $29.99 plus whatever the shipping is going to be for your location. Toy Maestro on Instagram. I have a link to his Instagram. Hit him up if he's got any left. But man, what a fantastic figure. You guys let me know down in the comments below all your thoughts, what you think of it. Let me know in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching.